Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us today for our distinguished lecture by Her Excellency Jovita Neliupšienė, who is the Ambassador of the European Union to the United States. We're so delighted to welcome her to BYU. We recognize that this is a busy time in the semester and that many of you have a lot of commitments from a variety of sources, and we're really grateful that you would take the time to come and hear this distinguished lecture. My name is Quinn Meekum. I direct our academic programs here at Brigham Young University, and we welcome you to the Kennedy Center for International Studies. This is the heart of international engagement on campus, and we're always interested in bringing the most interesting, thoughtful, and influential people we can to campus, and we're really grateful for all who facilitated Her Excellency's visit to BYU today. Before I introduce the ambassador, I would like to open up with an opening prayer, which will be given by a BYU student, Matilda Oscarson, who is a double major in French and art history. Matilda.
Mūsų brangus dangiškasis Tėve, mes dėkojame Tau šiandien ir už galimybę susirinkti čia kartu ir išgirsti iš ambasadorės Jovitos Neliupšienės, ir mes dėkojame Tau už Tavo meilę, ir mes prašome Tavęs palaiminti mus, padėti kitiems ir juos mylėti, ir mes mylime Tave ir tai sakome Jėzaus Kristaus vardu. Amen.
Thank you very much, Matilda. Matilda offered the opening prayer in Lithuanian in honor of the ambassador who hails from Lithuania. Let's just, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever been to the European Union? Nice, okay, that's great. And if we get a little bit more specific, how many of you have actually had a chance to visit Lithuania? Excellent. Anyone who's lived in Lithuania before? Oh, we've got a few. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Her Excellency Jovita Neliupšienė is the Ambassador of the European Union to the United States of America. She has held previous posts in her native Lithuania, including Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vice Minister of Economy and Innovation, Chancellor and State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She's also held a number of diplomatic positions, including Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Lithuania to the European Union. Ambassador Neliupšienė holds degrees in political science, in law, in international relations, and in social science. We're particularly delighted to welcome members of her staff as well, including Maeva. We appreciate you being here again. And as a special treat, her son Martinez is here on spring break. Spring break, Provo. It's about as good as it gets. So please join me in a big round of applause for Her Excellency, the Ambassador.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the kind words and really an outstanding hospitality for me and for my son Martinez, and of course for Maeve, who has been here already 4 or 5 times, and she's a true friend of BYU, and I think she always keeps saying that this is the place to visit. Whoever is the next ambassador, she probably will persuade that to do early in the term. So I'm the EU ambassador to United States since 2024 January. So it was quite an intense time for me. I have to admit, a lot of things happening every day, but you know, the things which are not killing us makes us stronger. This is how we say in Lithuania. But you know, for the diplomat, I have to say, you know, being posted in Washington D.C. is actually extremely big privilege and the most interesting job you can get as a diplomat. And this morning we started from meeting the president of the university, Reese, and we got a wonderful tour around the campus and the art collection, and the most important, of course, for some of our team to see your football. And touch the grass over there. That's a football field, and touch the grass over there. It's really extremely thoughtful to include that in the schedule. I think, and in general, being at university campus and BYU, it makes you think about all the good things which are happening around your curriculum, but education is probably why you are here and why I'm here, because education in Latin literally means lead forth, and because of your school motto is come to learn and go forth to serve. Is actually really kind of speaks for itself, and is really an intention and a spirit of the school. Many of you, I was told, actually served on LDS missions abroad, and I'm sure that some of you, those who've been in Lithuania and other European countries, been not only to study but as well on the mission. And in general, I'm on the mission here as well. I've done almost 20 missions over the year and 4 months in different states. I visited 20 states already, and it's not because I want to hit some kind of the record here, but I think that our mission as a diplomats actually is not only to act as a messenger, which you would expect, to be a kind of a connector between your capital and Washington D.C., but to transfer that message in a way that people understand why the things are happening and what is exactly happening. And if you stay only in Washington, your understanding of why and what is happening is quite limited to my to my taste. I have to say, we have a really very good connection with BYU. It's not only Maeve who actually brings every ambassador she works with here, but as well we have your alumni working for us in PD, our political diplomacy team. Michelle O'Neill, she has the name, had the name when she was studying here, and your professors, Professor Corey Leonard and the late Wade Jacoby, actually were really true friends, helping to organize and engage in the Western U.S. model EU. And study of Europe in the Western U.S., and we really fondly remember Professor Wade here. What I was planning to talk today was walk with you maybe four major topics. First of all, transatlantic relations. How do we understand and where we are coming from the current trade turbulences? Ukraine and European security, and maybe a bit of values. Usually what you do, you would listen to the lecture probably, and then jump with the questions. But if someone of you kind of during my speech or my presentation feel that you like this is the time to ask, please don't hesitate. You can jump and then I can get back to my script. So the term transatlantic relations actually has been around for a very long time, more than 80 years, and it's not really separately taking our security relations, economic relations, people-to-people contacts, cultural ties, historical ties. I think that the transatlantic relations is everything at once, and you cannot talk about one element without touching the other. But you know, those ties have been strengthened actually during and after Second World War, and immediately after the Second World War. What happened actually? United States decided that the best way how to prevent next war is actually to make sure that there's a proper and fast economic development, cultural development in Europe, and decided that the best way forward is the Marshall Plan to build, but there were several, there were very limited conditions for the Marshall Plan there, but the two major ones were, first of all, that none of their support will get to the European countries if they don't agree to cooperate together. So to bring former enemies who fought and fought each other for centuries, to bring them work together, and to make sure that we build alliances that would prevent any kind of the similar conflicts. And this where the institutions like NATO and the EU were born. They were not born to take economic advantage of US. No, quite on the opposite. Because by investing into the really war-torn Europe, the idea was actually to rebuild, but as well to rebuild better, to make sure that you have a prosperous markets, you have a prosperous people who actually will be on the equal footing to cooperate with US. And we did quite a lot over those 80 years together. When the Berlin Wall fell and allowed countries behind the Iron Curtain like mine to regain their independence, and the Soviet Union collapsed. During the Balkan Wars, US provided leadership to bring the conflict to the lasting peace, which there are some things still from time to time happening, but in general, it became a safe neighborhood, and we can all work together. In the aftermath of the 9/11, when the Europeans actually said we all are Americans, and we began to cooperate with the US on counterterrorism and law enforcement. This was the only time when actually NATO Article 5 was invoked, when we needed to stand together with our American partners and to send our troops on behalf of US to distant foreign countries. And you know, we stood together when Russia invaded Ukraine in 22 February 24th. And I think that's actually, it's longer period than any human lifespan probably. And I'm sure that there are a lot of things we will do more. And this all actually, even if we talk about war and peace here, the cooperation has a mutual benefit part in that, or transactional, if you wish, because when we work together, we probably succeed in stabilizing their unsecure regions. We succeed countering terrorism. We succeed fighting communist regimes. But on top of that, we managed to build really a very interlinked trade system, and we set the standards for that. People turn to forget that after the Second World War and then later in the 60s, we actually built the Bretton Woods and then the World Trade Organization together to make sure that we have rules and that everybody can benefit and be based on the win-win. That's why those countries who were already better off created a system that some people can actually charge us a little bit more because we are already a bit better off. So we can share what our wealth with the others, and I think that that is what is this universal trade was about. You have, and it's beneficial for both sides, even if we charge a little bit more. Those people, they develop their own economies, and it happens. Look, think about India after the Second World War, or India in 60s, and think about India right now. And we can go country by country and see what kind of the difference and what kind of the societal changes and transformation those countries actually went through. Yes, the things do not stand still. Maybe there are, every 30, 50 years you have to review the system, how it works, to make sure it's still fair for everyone. But we definitely don't believe as Europeans that, coming in and saying that tariffs is the best word in the dictionary. I think everything is more sophisticated and more complicated than that, because the country where I am coming from Lithuania, when we regained independence in 1990, our GDP per capita was maybe $2,000, which is very low. Now it's $20,000+ in just 34 years. So, and it's because we were a part of the open economy, because we managed to trade. We had a preferential treatment for a short while. Then we joined the EU, and we had to open our economy to compete, because competition drives innovation, ensures your resilience, and gets you into this situation. Then, and in 2010, Lithuania managed to join the countries who are actually contributing to development cooperation. So it took 20 years, from 1990 to 2010, actually, to become from the country which receives support to the country who actually delivers support. Maybe not in huge quantities, but this was the idea. So I really was happy to get to know yesterday on my way here that we are really going to engage into talks and negotiations, how to make sure that everybody in the system feels fairly treated, because we do believe that tariffs are the wrong answer to the wrong problem. Tariffs are taxes, and business would never pay the tariffs themselves. They will pass on. So from cars, which are still be tariffed by 25%, will become more expensive. If car is more expensive, the people who work in the car repair will have to ask for the more money, because the parts are more expensive. If parts are more expensive, your old car will get more expensive. It's good if you are planning to sell it, but if you need one, then it's a bit more complicated. And the wrong problem. The wrong problem is that the question is, what do we trying to solve? Do we trying to get more money into the budget, or do we actually really making sure that we need to protect from ourselves from the countries who are actually misusing our rule-based order? Or market economy rules, which we actually introduced right after the Second World War. If so, I think that if the problem is actually not only collecting the money to your budget, which is not a wrong problem, but maybe not the right time, but if the problem is actually to stop misuse of the current trade system, then we have to work together with the partners. because one country using the instruments like tariffs or export control mechanisms or some anti-dumping measures would not work, because we learned the lesson for example, with Russia, when we tried to change the behavior. If you act alone, if you are only two countries, doesn't make sense. But if you are 50, 60 countries, actually that maybe if not prevents the war, so it at least contains it here. So I think that we have not to forget that EU and US is the biggest trading partner. We actually are 30% of overall global trade. So if you harm that, it's not really affect only on the EU, it's affect global trade system, and in general harms a lot of people who are benefiting. EU is the biggest investor in this country. 65% of the foreign direct investment coming here in this country is actually coming from the European Union. EU is number 1, 2, or 3 investor in 46 states around here. We are second largest foreign direct investment investor in Utah. So even if Utah is very far away from the coast, because you would assume here, by the way, it's wrongly people usually wrongly think that our biggest place for investment is California. No, actually Texas is way bigger. So you see the amount, like, and I can tell you 1.7 trillion. Do we have mathematicians in there? But I usually kind of joke that it's like 4.5 billion a day, 2 million a minute. So the amount of the goods and services crossing Atlantic is 2 million a minute. So we're already kind of much above our pay grades all taken together. Well, even if I'm speaking already for 10 minutes. So it's, I think that it's, and it's not really only about the businesses and business people who are doing this trades here and there. It's 16 million people are employed on the both sides of Atlantic because those trade and investment. And I think that's huge. And that on top of that, don't underestimate the people-to-people contact because of that. This business then finances schools like this, or finances art centers, or so it's a huge infrastructure around that. And I think that makes sense. Or I think that's a common sense which we have to follow. Well, but as in every family, I'm sure, maybe not in every, but in every second family, there is a bit of sibling elbowing to each other. There is competition. It's not a secret. We compete with each other in different sectors, in the car industry, in semiconductors, in medicine or pharma. But this is what drives economy, because this is what drives innovation and productivity. I think that that's why we managed to be the biggest trading bloc, because of this competition. So I hope we will manage this miscommunication, and we will get into the not in the same place. I don't think that we have to get into the square zero where we were, but into the better place, to make sure that we actually can continue our work together, because there are so many challenges around the world, from Middle East to Ukraine, from North Korea to Iran. I'm not even speaking about Africa, which sometimes is so much forgotten, and what's happening in there, the conflicts and and devastation because of the environmental situation. So there are so many things we have to do together, because, well, to all those, be it a conflict, be it the overall global challenges, we actually, European Union and United States, we look at those more or less in the one direction. We do understand who is the victim and who is a perpetrator. We do understand who is to blame and what is the threat in there. And I think that, especially talking about Ukraine, once again you have to bring yourself back to the rule-based world order. I think that none of us would want that someone would intrude your house and will say, like, okay, here is the new borders. Your kitchen is right now my kitchen, and you have to live in the rest of the apartment. That's fine, but this is mine. So the same is here. There in the international relations, the United Nations, the standards and in general international principles says they are very firm that the borders are the thing that keeps this order the way it is, that the independence and the freedom of choice, the way how you live, where you live, what kind of regime you have, is actually the possibility of the free nation to choose. And I think that we have to stand firmly if we really want this world not to fall apart, and to make sure that might does not mean right, because otherwise it will not be only Russia vis-a-vis Ukraine. It will be China, Taiwan. It will be Iran, Israel, if you wish. It could be DRC, Rwanda. It could be anywhere in the world where you will have to go after, and then we will have to see the constant bombardment, challenges, and the lives at stake. But there is no any country in Europe, there is no European citizen on the other side of Atlantic who would wish that there would be peace and security in Ukraine. There is very easy, actually, possibility how you can do that. And make no mistakes, it's not Ukraine who actually waged the war. Russia can stop bombing Ukraine, backtrack from Ukrainian territory, and the war will be over. While they say and claim that they are negotiating ceasefire, like 6 days ago, they bombed a school where actually 19 children died. The guys from the 9 years old to 19. This is not the peace we want to have. This is then existential. The problem is that if you don't stop these guys, or this guy, if you wish, at where they are, actually they will march, and they will send a signal for other authoritarian leaders what they can do if they have enough guns and they have enough manpower to send. So that's why the EU is actually really supporting Ukraine. It's a mind changing actually how European Union countries, not only those who were at the borders with Ukraine or with Russia, but as well in the very south, how they changed their opinion, how we look at that. 175 billion we already spent in Ukraine. The money which actually contributed not only to kind of a defense support, which is defense industry or ammunition, but as well to keep economy afloat. We have 4 million Ukrainians in the European countries, and we don't have refugee camps, because those people are actually hosted at home of the ordinary Europeans. Most of them, of course, they're really keen and looking forward to come back. But this is how we see, and this fostered actually another change in Europe. European Union was never created as military alliance. For that we have NATO. But what happened over the time, because we were so comfortable living under the U.S. security umbrella, that we lost the sense that we have to invest in our own defense. So we lost part of our defense industry over last 30 years. So what we are doing right now, we're actually picking the bill, or you can put it like we are trying to share the burden. It will not happen over the night, although 3 weeks ago, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced that we will going to invest 800 billion into a defense industry and to rebuild our capabilities, a possibility to defend ourselves. I don't think, if you would ask me, that we will be able to defend ourselves like in 10 years without American support, because here, you guys, you own a huge part of the technology and technological advantage, and we're happy actually to not only to use that, but to buy that, because we have to buy. But this is the really a state-of-art cooperation, which actually is happening among ourselves, and I think that's extremely important. And I think that it's not really because of Ukraine. I think that we have finally understood that we have to do that for ourselves, because now it's Ukraine. The next time it could be other challenges, or our friends in NATO will get into some challenges, or they would wish to strengthen their presence in some other regions, like Southeast Asia, for example, and then we will have to step up and be there, because this is where the security needs of one of our strategic partners are, because we are strategic partners. So I can go on and give you multiple examples of our transatlantic cooperations, but I think that European Union actually proved that a part of being just an institution, which acts on a very kind of with a very limited capacities, within all very specific policies which member states decided to dedicate to give powers to the European Commission or European Council. But over the years, we actually built a community, and we built it like you started from 6 to 9 states, then to 12, and now we are 27. We were growing our membership. At a certain point, we lost one on the way. But again, EU is the organization which actually gets stronger each crisis. So we can, maybe with the questions, and can dwell how those crises actually helps to strengthen European Union. But I can tell when there is a huge risk, be it financial, as was in 2008, 2009, be it COVID crisis, 1920, be it now Ukraine, or I missed one, migration crisis, so 2015. We know that we have to stand next to each other. This is what is the EU about. There was no a blink during the Brexit negotiations that we have to stand to Ireland when they need it. And we have actually sometimes underestimate our own power and strength, because of standing together is actually beneficial for everyone who is inside here. And that's why I really do believe that standing with EU and US standing together is not only beneficial to each other, for the United States and European Union countries, but as well globally. The closer we are, the world is more stable and safer place. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your remarks. We would love to bring you in to the conversation. We have about 15 minutes, and we will end at 2:50. If you have a question you'd like to ask Her Excellency, please just raise your hand. We have two folks on both sides of the room with microphones. They can bring you the microphone. When you stand, please tell us your name. If you're a student, please tell us what you study here at BYU, and we'll go until 2:50. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cody. I'm studying economics here at BYU. I wanted to ask you what your favorite kind of American food is.
That's a tricky question. Crab cakes. I have another opinion in the house, probably. The favorite places from the fast food is Chick-fil-A, no? Yes.
Hi, my name's Lauren Haymore. I am studying Russian and International Relations, and I spent some time in Lithuania. I was wondering, the EU stance on peace agreements between Ukraine and Russia and Trump's involvement has been very clear, but I was wondering if you could speak to the EU's efforts to be involved in those agreement talks.
Well, thank you. That's a very good question. Well, I would wish there would be negotiations happening, but so far there is a conversation between U.S. and Ukraine and U.S. and Russia. So there is no one yet sitting at the table and having negotiations. The main principle for us is actually nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, and nothing about Europe without Europe. And I think that's really kind of goes to the very essence, because whatever is decided on Ukraine ceasefire or truce or peace actually will have a fundamental impact on the security architecture in Europe. Part of that is, of course, the conversation which requires who would guarantee, what would be security guarantees in Ukraine, and we hear a lot of different versions. Like right now, some of them comes from politicians, some come from the think tank community or scientific community. So it's still not decided, but apparently the opinion is around that Europeans should be involved. So you cannot have negotiations without Europeans at the table. Another part of the security guarantees is that institutional. So there are different, versions. Well, Ukrainians, of course, they would wish to be part of NATO, and I would see a lot of benefits of that. Not as a security guarantees for Ukraine, but it will be a huge security guarantees for us, because now they have the best trained army. They know how to tackle one of our challengers and an enemy, if I may put like that. And on top of that, they have the most innovative defense industry at the moment, which actually managed to change in the instance. There is no decision on that whatsoever, but most of the countries within NATO who will have to make a decision actually are EU members as well. And on top of that, because as I started to talk about how the EU and why EU was created, it was in general as the peace project. So bringing Ukraine into the EU probably will be, and here I already say that should be, but will be a Ukrainian security guarantees part, if you wish, and to make sure that they have a steady path for the economic development, financial stability, and have the possibility to fund even their continued defense and defense efforts. So that kind of, again, it's very difficult to speak about Ukraine without Europeans. When those negotiations will start is still to be seen, because the ball is definitely is in Russian court right now, and they have to honor their word that they are serious about ceasefire instead of bombing civilian infrastructure. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Isaac. I'm studying neuroscience here at BYU. I've seen some discussion in the news surrounding nuclear proliferation. So I know South Koreans, they've recently been looking at dusting off some policy, and I know the French and the British, they've had their own for some time.
They still have.
They still have, of course. How, as a kind of looking at the momentum that this is building, that more countries are looking to not rely on extended deterrence from the United States, is there anything, it's kind of a maybe a dicey question, or
Not a dicey, but your framing of the question is very smart, actually, because otherwise, if you would ask if we are afraid that U.S. Would not protect us with their nuclear umbrella, that would be a dicey question, but you phrased it in a very smart way. So.
But just any potential futures, ways to avoid nuclear proliferation, and then how you're approaching those questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. But this is exactly part of this conversation about world-based rule-based world order. Because if you don't have rules for that, then it's the question. Okay, if everyone is now allowed to interfere, like borders, or to kind of occupy part of the country, or challenge that in 2026 we will occupy an island. So then that means that I have a full right to develop any technology I want to protect myself. So this may lead, not leads yet, hopefully, may lead actually to nuclear proliferation and what not. There are other dangerous technologies globally. So, having a proper globally agreed instruments, how you make sure that it's not happening, I think that would lead to more stability and safety. But you have to have a commitment from big powers. Because I think one thing which we learn, not only in neuroscience, but in international relationship, big power comes with a very big responsibility. And I think this actually kind of goes hand in hand. And it's not applicable. And when I'm saying that big power comes with a responsibility, I'm not speaking about U.S. actually. Because if you look at the numbers, how much of the nuclear military development is happening right now in China, you would see incredible numbers. And if you read actually and take literally what Chinese leadership is saying, that what they want to achieve by 2030, well, we will be in a very unsafe place at that moment if they really kind of achieve what they say. And I think that's again, you have to bring big powers to the table. Because the next thing which we probably will face, that this will be popping all those initiatives around. But but I'm not the one who would say that we have to fear every time when we hear that someone deployed his and this everywhere. I'm coming from the country which is surrounded by nuclear heads around, and you just live with that, hoping that there is enough raison d'etat or raison d'être, I don't know which one you choose, with common sense around the globe, which actually makes the right decision not to use that. But for neuroscience, it was a brilliant question.
Hi, I'm Teo Larson. I'm currently a student here studying mechanical engineering. You had mentioned how the situation in Ukraine had led to an awakening to personal development in each of the countries. So, will we expect to see much more innovation come from Europe in a starting age?
hopefully so. We're just about to actually, probably, if not yet today, so in a couple of coming days, we will have a new AI and Chips Act, so to come online, which is mostly, we called it Act, but in general, it's not about a new law. It's about more incentivizing innovation in that field. Sometimes it's not really the money which actually drives innovation. I think that what is the biggest difference between us and you on the two sides of the Atlantic is that we have a lot of smart people and good schools in Europe, and you have here as well. We have 450 million of people. You have a bit less. The thing is that we're so risk averse because our history, that it's very difficult to to take a risk. We have less venture capital companies, like times less than here, because of this so how to unleash this power to take a risk is really the question. So if you see, for example, if you look at the numbers of where the most of the unicorn companies are born, you would see that actually it's the countries which are the Central and Eastern Europe. It's just because maybe, we have no other choice than to take a risk, because that's how the history goes, now or never. So I hope that the institutions will help. So we have money. So it's not about money. It's about how to unleash this more risk-friendly atmosphere there.
My name is Eric Vagil. I'm from Chicago, and I'm studying computer science here.
Yeah. You know that Chicago is the second largest Lithuanian city.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. After capital.
Yeah, I'm actually Ukrainian. My parents are Ukrainian, so I appreciate all your comments on that. But with Madame von der Leyen's recent comments about being open to 0 for 0 tariffs, and many Americans feeling that they've been sort of, used, or that American industries have sort of been lost to the European Union. How would you address those comments that if, Madame von der Leyen is so open for 0 for 0 tariffs, why did it take this long to get to that stage of negotiations? Why did it take the U.S. placing, these massive tariffs on the European Union and other nations to reach this point of now we're willing to sit down and talk and sort of make it more equal?
Thank you. That's a good question, but always suggest reading a bit more than the newspapers. So first of all, the average tariffs on the EU side and US. Let's get the facts straight, and you can check them on the internet. So the average tariffs which we tax or tariff US is 5.5%. The average tariff which US tariff us when European goods come in, it's 4.5%. It's 1% difference. Yes, there are some sectors where we tariff more. This is a so-called chicken tax, which was introduced back in 70s, when we tariff more, for example, trucks coming from US, it's like around 14-15%, where you still tariff 4.5. So it's still 10%. It's not a 25 and not 65, not 49, not of that number. Because when I said when we were creating the WTO and Bretton Woods system, the idea was that the similar development country, like the countries which are the similar level of development, tax each other similarly or tariff each other similarly, but the ones which are less developed, like at that moment, China, India, Bangladesh, Cambodia, at that moment was all the former Yugoslavia, they would be allowed to tax us more. So that's why if you open the document of WTO, you would see that actually India really tariff, quite high tariff. So I assume when the president refers to the reciprocal tariffs, they actually refers to those countries which actually tariff really very huge difference. To go to all the industrial goods back to basics, to like 0 or to, you would not go to 0 actually, you would go to 2.5 because you have a congressional legislation on that, but that's the, okay, let's go to 0. That's not really a matter of fact. It's actually the idea which we put when we have trade negotiations. So when we have bilateral trade negotiations, and the European Union is really one of the bloc which actually negotiate most of the trade deals. We just finalized with Mercosur countries in Latin America. We just finalized a year and a half with Chile. We were very smart for that. We finalized one with Mexico. Indonesia is on the way. India is on the way. And the idea of the trade deals is actually you negotiate down to 0 in most of the sectors, except it's agriculture. Countries usually don't negotiate that, or negotiate some rules and regulations how we accommodate that. If you remember, it's 15 years ago, we tried very hard to negotiate EU-US trade deal, TTIP it was called, and we failed. The idea of this trade deal it actually brings down tariffs either to 0 or to a certain level. And because we don't have a trade deal, we have a discrepancies in some sectors. But don't be mistaken that only us charge you on the cars. You have a problem with eggs. Do you know why? Because none of the EU countries actually are allowed, except 2, to export eggs to the United States. It's only Netherlands and Lithuania. Like, for God's sake, we will not produce so many chickens in the...
Our time has come to a close. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you.